Hey everybody, it's Dr. Karen. And in this video, I'm going to show you the simple skill you can use to amplify your language therapy outcomes and help your students generalize. So, thing is that many people assume that the best way to do this is to do what's known as co-teaching or pushing in, which means that instead of pulling our students out into a private therapy setting, that we are doing some type of therapy in the classrooms. And you may have experienced people sharing this opinion. Maybe you're getting pressure to do this from your administrator, from other clinicians, from your coworkers, and maybe you have no idea how or where you can get started with this. And maybe you've tried to do therapy in the classroom before, but it didn't go as planned and you weren't sure if you were doing the right thing for your students. Or maybe you're afraid to try because you're worried that you'll fail and you're worried that your therapy will get watered down or that you'll look like you don't know what you're doing in front of your coworkers. I know that I experienced all of these worries firsthand, and my first attempts at co-teaching were a complete disaster. I wandered around like an untrained parent volunteer, and my students really didn't get that structured intervention that they needed. And the problem is that a lot of other SLPs have had this experience as well, because no one's ever really given us a roadmap for knowing how to navigate those different service delivery models and figuring out what's best for our students. And no one's ever really given us a roadmap to help us bridge that generalization gap. And we get trained under that medical model, which means that we typically start out by pulling students out of the classroom. Yet when it comes to providing services for school-aged children, oftentimes we're referred to as the speech teacher. And sometimes we're even expected to do things that look more like a teacher's role. And it can be really confusing to figure out what exactly we're supposed to be doing and how to best support our students and figure out how to navigate the educational model and the medical model together. And then we start to wonder, are we even therapists anymore? Or is our role starting to get watered down? And what do we even do to best support our students' language growth? Now, a lot of times we are led to believe that the best way to help our students carry over is to provide services in the classroom, because people assume that that is going to be more functional, because ultimately that's our goal, is that we want our students to perform better in the classroom. And we might worry that our therapy is going to be too structured and contrived and non-functional if we don't actually do it in the classroom. Before we start approaching teachers to actually start planning classroom-based interventions, it's important to ask ourselves the question, is it really better for our students? So in order to answer that question, let's rewind to the early 1990s to an article by Sharon Waddell, where she insisted that yes, absolutely, SLPs need to be in the classroom. And even if we feel like we haven't been given that type of training, it's not a valid excuse for not being in the classroom. We've got to educate ourselves and figure out how to make that happen, even if we've been trained in more of the medical model. Now fast forward 20 years to some more current literature by Marilyn Nippold, where she discussed the fact that SLPs have the power to give students those underlying language skills they need in the workforce. So it's so important for us to be involved in the classroom and collaborating with teachers and knowing what's going on in those classrooms, because we can make a massive impact. Now, when some people hear this, they feel empowered because they think, wow, I can make a huge difference. But others might feel even more frustrated because they think, great, another thing I have to be doing that I'm not sure how to do. So ultimately, we come back to this question. How do we even know that push-in is better for our students? How do we know that that is an essential step in providing those services that are going to result in generalization of those language skills? And the thing is that we actually don't know this. The research has actually shown that there's really not a lot of evidence that shows that one model is superior to another. This systematic review done by Kieran et al. Found that there really isn't one clear winner when it comes to language interventions. Now, the crazy thing is that only 5 studies met the criteria for the author's analysis for this systematic review. So that means that not only have we not done enough research on this topic, what has been done has lacked rigor. So we can't really definitively say that one service delivery model is better than another. Now, what we do know is that one of the studies that stood out from this review was done by Thronberg et al. And what they found was that it wasn't simply the fact that teachers were doing classroom-based therapy. The key factor that actually stood out that was something that impacted results was collaboration between the SLPs and teachers. That actually resulted in more vocabulary growth in the children. So what we know is that it's not simply about where services are happening. It's about how well we're collaborating and what we're actually doing in therapy that matters. So what we need to do is not just figure out where we're providing therapy, but what we're actually doing in therapy, and if we're targeting those skills that are going to result in that generalization, regardless of whether we're pushing in or pulling out or doing one-on-one therapy. So what we can take away is that we should always be collaborating, because that's going to inform the interventions that we're delivering. But we've got to stop to ask ourselves, when is co-teaching the right thing to do? When is it possible? And when is it ideal to actually start this type of intervention based on the skills that the students need to work on? When I was working through this on my own, I found something interesting. Now, of my students who were getting language therapy, there were some that generalized while some that didn't. There was a group of students who did really well with the structured vocabulary intervention that I was doing to work on things like semantics, syntax, morphology, those foundational skills that improved their language processing. But then there was this other group who seemed to need just a little bit more. They just needed that extra boost in order to generalize those foundational skills that we'd been working on so hard. And I was trying to figure out what was that final piece that we needed in order to get them to generalize those skills. So for all of those students, they needed me to start with that structured vocabulary intervention in order to ensure that they got the intensity that they needed. And the thing is that we often aren't able to deliver that intensity in the classroom because there are so many things going on, there are so many distractions, and students are required to integrate so many skills at once. But then for some students, we need that flexibility as well. So for some students, we need to provide intervention in a setting that's a little more functional and flexible and more challenging, because if we don't, we aren't able to help our students apply those skills. So while some students will do fine with that structured intervention, there will be a group of students who are going to need us to take that next step and pull things together for them. So we've got to figure out what skills we need to target to bridge that gap that gives us that happy medium between structured and flexible. Now, I finally, after doing trial and error and tons of research, I finally found that one skill that helps us do that. And the thing is that we can actually target this skill whether we're pushing in or pulling out. And this skill is a huge predictor of academic success and is essential for developing the communication skills needed for the workforce. That skill is the ability to tell a story, or what we would refer to as narrative language. This targets those high-level cohesion skills for those students who need that extra push to help pull all that vocabulary intervention and that knowledge together so that they're able to actually apply those language skills that we've been teaching them in those structured settings. So the thing is that up until this point, we really haven't had any specific set of protocols that are going to clarify how to bridge that gap between structured and functional. But that's all going to change because I'm going to give you a chance to get one. So let me ask you a quick question. What if you had a roadmap for building those strong narrative skills that would help your students generalize, and a system that would work even if you couldn't always push in, so that you would know your therapy is functional regardless of any logistical challenges that you have? The thing is that I've actually put all this information into an easy to follow online course designed just for SLPs, and it's called The Art and Science of Narrative Language. Now, the thing is that many SLPs still don't feel comfortable venturing out of the therapy room and moving between those service delivery models, and a lot of times they're not even sure when they should push in or pull out. But if you learn this information, you will, and you'll be able to make those decisions confidently. Because in the art and science of narrative language, I'm going to show you the research behind narrative skills, so you'll be 100% confident you're delivering high-quality, evidence-based interventions. And I'm also going to show you how to evaluate narrative skills, so you can easily communicate the value of your therapy with concrete data, so people won't be questioning why you're choosing the service delivery model that you've decided upon. You can simply prove it to them with real-life results. And I'm also going to show you tried and true techniques for building narrative skills, so you have a roadmap for helping your students that works whether you're pushing in or pulling out, so you can easily use this with whatever materials are relevant to your students' curriculum. And then finally, I'm going to give you a complete set of printable narrative language protocols and cheat sheets, so you'll have exactly what you need to get started right away. And the great thing is that you can share these with teachers, so it will make collaboration easy. Last but not least, you'll get access to our private Language Therapy Insiders Club Facebook group, so you can get support whenever you need it with implementation. So this is for you if you have students in grades pre-K through 12 who have a hard time generalizing what you teach them in therapy to the classroom. So maybe you're working on vocabulary and syntax and you know that they're making great progress, but they just need that final boost. And then if you know you should be getting out of that pull-out model for some of your students, and you're ready to give it a try, but you aren't sure if it's right for your students or where to start, this is absolutely for you, because it'll give you a roadmap that'll work for classroom-based interventions. And then finally, if you've ever felt lost when you decided to go into the classroom for therapy because you didn't have a set protocol or a strategy that would work in the classroom, this is absolutely for you. Now, I could offer to coach you through this process one-on-one, but my coaching and consulting packages start at $2,000. So obviously I'm not going to charge you anywhere near that amount today. Now, normally you can get this package, which includes the implementation modules, the printable protocols, and the Facebook group for $297 on my website. But for a limited time, you can get the full art and science of narrative language package for just $197. Now, when you join the art and science of narrative language, what you're getting are those 3 implementation modules, which are worth 3.5 CMHs, which will walk you through the exact strategies to implement this narrative language protocol that helps your students generalize. Then you'll also get access to bonus number 1, the course cheat sheets and printable protocols that will help you with evaluation, with cueing your students, and with those guides to your narrative language intervention. And then finally, you'll get access to that private members Facebook group to support you along the way. A total value of $1,291, but if you join today for a limited time, you can get it for $197. And I'm so confident that you'll get the results if you complete the entire course and use even just a couple of the techniques recommended, that I'll offer you a 60-day money-back guarantee. Just show me that you've gone through the course and made an honest effort to implement the strategies, and I will give you your money back. Now you have a choice. You can continue to work through this on your own and wonder if you have the right service delivery model for your students, wonder if your students are ever going to generalize, and worry that you'll look like you don't know what you're doing if you go into the classroom. Or you can let me give you a roadmap so that you can walk into classrooms 100% confident that you're giving your students the structured intervention that they need, and have a guide for collaboration with teachers so that you can amplify your language therapy results. All you need to do to enroll in the art and science of narrative language and get this special offer for $197 is click the Enroll Now button below, and that will take you to the sign up page. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the members area.